So let's get started with Solidity. So now what type of language the Solidity is? Now Solidity is a high level programming language. Now what does it mean is that they are more closer to humans rather than machines, right? The second thing is it is statically typed. Now what that means is that we have to, in Solidity, we have to go ahead and declare all the types like integers and string on the compile time itself, and then it is case sensitive. However, what I will suggest is that you do go out and check the Solidity org documentation, and go through that entire documentation of what exactly the Solidity is, how does it works, and how does it different from other programming languages. So what we'll do in this video, in order to get started, we'll create a very small sample contract with, say, basic getter and setter functions, right? So what I will do is I will create a contract named as, say, employee, and then that employee will have, say, basic properties like a name and an age. So before we get started, a typical Solidity file will have a license number. Now, why do you need a license number? It's basically to gain trust from the community, right? So it is good to have the license number. The second thing is the pragma. Now pragma is like a directive. So I mean, this is basically the first line that you will find in any Solidity file, and it basically directs the Solidity compiler like what version of the compiler to use. Now you remember, if we go here, we have all the compiler versions here, right? So suppose if you want to test any legacy code, you can go and you can set those compiler. So in my case, my compiler version ranges between 0.7.0 to 0.90, right? So now let's get started with creating a very basic contract. So our contract will, so we'll use a keyword called as contract. Now contract here is something similar to how a function would be in JavaScript, right? So I have actually enabled the auto compile. So while I write the code, it is getting compiled. So my contract will be named as an employee, right? And I will have an employee will have, say, two things. One is the name. So we'll have a name of an employee, and other one is the uint. Now we are using uint because the employee will have a positive age, and we'll discuss more on the integers in the coming videos. So employees will have a age. Now what we'll do is we'll create a constructor. Now just to give a basic understanding of what a constructor means is, these are like a special type of functions which will get executed once the contract is deployed. So what I will do is, so once that is being deployed, we'll set it as, say, Pushkar, right? And the age and the age parameter will set it as, because it's uint, so we'll set the age, right? So this is what exactly gets deployed here. Now suppose now it's already compiled. Now suppose if I go ahead and say I deploy it. Now this is the employee.solidity that I'm going to deploy. So now suppose if I go ahead and deploy it, what you will see is that even though the contract is deployed, we do not have any public method to access, right? Because these strings and the uint by default is internal, right? So what we'll do is, either we can go ahead and we can make these public, say doing something like, say, public string, right? And then like redeploy. Once I go ahead and redeploy, so then in that case, let me deploy it again and come here. So you see we have a name. So by default, a public variable will basically, they will have their by default getters, right? So if I do name, so you see Pushkar here. However, what we'll do is we'll define a getter and a setter as well. So getter to get the age of an employee. So we'll do it like function, say get age, right? And so then since this is a function, we'll close the parenthesis, and then we'll have, say, we'll define it as a public. So this is a public function. Then it will be a view. Now we'll discuss on what the view means, but basically in order to just get started, you can understand view as something or a function where we are not updating the state of the contract, like whatever the state variable we have, and then it will have a return type. So in this case, we'll use the word keyword returns, and then its return type is basically a uint, because the age is basically the of type uint. Now I will go ahead and we'll basically have a return age, right? And similarly, what we'll do is we'll have a basics. Okay, so I'm getting an error here. Okay, so basically it's not returns, it will be a return, right? So now what we'll do is I will create another function to increment age variables, right? So in this case, we are updating the state of the state variable, right? So here it is again going to be public, so one can access this, and then what we'll do is like simple age is equal to say age plus 1. That's it, right? So this is how a basic contract looks like. So we have a contract with an employee with a public method which is name, and the age which is private. A constructor, I said, is special type function, and a get age method and an increment age method, which is like a get and set of class. Now, if I go ahead and suppose compile it, so since it's all auto compiling, we can simply go ahead and deploy it. So now, if I go ahead and deploy this, and if you see here, we have these public methods ready, right? So increment is a public, even get age is a public method, and a name. Name by default is public. So I clicked on name, I get name, which is Pushkar. Suppose if I do get age, which is say 27 in this case, I increment age and then call this get age again, and it is updating the state of the contract. So now that we have understood how a basic layout of Solidity and a basic smart contract looks like, in the next video we'll discuss on the state variables and the local variables in Solidity. Thanks.